True Story Media.
Last night, you spent 2 hours deciding what to wear to the party. This morning, it'll take you 2 minutes to list it on Depop and make your money back. Just grab your phone, snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. The sheer dress and platform heels you'll never wear again? There's a birthday girl searching for them right now. Your one and done look is about to pay for your next night out. Or at least the ride home. Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
All right, guys, today we have a very special show because it's kind of a show that people have been asking for a while, or maybe no one's been asking for a while, which is like, hey, Javier, what are you listening to? What are your podcast recommendations? And you know, nowadays I don't listen to too many podcasts, but I recently discovered a TikTok account, which just lists the best podcasts ever created. I mean, this person like just captured them all. And so I invited them over to my show because I want to share this with you guys so that you could follow her and listen to these classic podcasts, because if you haven't, you have a lot of catching up to do. So today I have Ivy with Watch and Listen. She's on TikTok, so search Watch and Listen on TikTok and you'll find her. And she has curated a list of fantastic podcasts. So welcome to the show, Ivy. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Javier. I appreciate you bringing me on.
And this is like the reason why I wanted to have you on, is because when I saw your TikTok, it was like, wow, this is the creme de la creme in terms of podcasting. Like, this is why I got into podcasting to begin with, was those quality shows. And so tell me, like, why did you start this channel?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And it does feel really mind blowing that I get to be on your podcast, because your podcast really was one of the first podcasts that I saw, that I listened to when I first got into podcasts. So probably like around the 2010s, that's when they were really emerging and having their moment. And I first started listening to Strange and Unexplained. That was like my first entertainment type podcast. And then Daisy Egan mentioned you.
Oh yeah, Daisy.
And that's how I found Pretend and the LaDonna Humphrey series. And that was my first true crime series that I watched, and I binged that. Wow. So it's very full circle, and I would have never thought. I've recommended that LaDonna Humphrey series to everybody, and I never would. When you first commented on one of my videos, I was so excited.
Oh, well, I mean, going back to like something that you were saying earlier was
yeah.
And what drew me to your channel, and I think that's why your TikTok feed is kind of blowing up, is because people are recognizing these are really, really good recommendations. And you were saying that you have like this high standard for what you listen to, music, podcasting, like everything. And it shows, right? Like it looks like, oh, this is good stuff.
Yes. So, okay. So as I was saying, I do feel like I have really high standards when it comes to anything that I watch or listen to. I like to find the best of the best. I can't just throw on a podcast right now. I can't just do that. It has to be good. So that's when I went to Reddit, and I just happened to type in, what do you think, or what is the greatest podcast episode of all time?
Yeah.
And I came up with this thread, and it was like 300 people had commented, and it was like a gold mine. And so I had never heard any of them, obviously. I hadn't really been that much into podcasts. So I just went and I picked out 3 of them that I thought were either recommended a lot. Like, you can tell when someone knows what they're talking about, or they have good taste because of the way they describe the show and what makes it good. And so I picked out 3 of them, and it was The Case of the Missing Hit by Reply All. And then it was the This American Life, 129 Cars, and Belt Buckle by The Mystery Show. And so I queued those up in my Spotify, and I was, I got to work cleaning and cooking, and that Case of the Missing Hit just made me laugh so hard. And it showed me like, okay, this is what a podcast can be like. This can be very entertaining and it can be really moving. And in the case of the missing hit, it was so entertaining to me. And I enjoyed it so much that I was like, let me just post about this on TikTok. Like I only had 400 followers when I first started this series, which is now a series. I didn't mean for it to be a series.
How many followers do you have now?
Over 7,000 now.
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
It's only been a month, and I just did, and it's only from this series of podcasts. So I thought to myself, I was like, if a lot of people are recommending these on Reddit, maybe some people on TikTok have heard of these episodes before, and maybe they would, want to talk about it, because I want to talk about it. So I posted that video of the 3, just giving kind of a little review of the 3. And that one went viral like instantly. And I had thousands and thousands of comments of, oh, I love the belt buckle. Oh, the case of missing. I never stopped thinking about that. And I was just shocked.
I know exactly where I was. I was on this side of the yard raking leaves when I first heard that. And you know what I mean? Like it just like takes me
I was
back.
talking to myself in the kitchen. I was laughing out loud. My husband could hear me. He was watching like a football game or something in the living room. And I was just cracking up. He's like, I heard you cracking up. I was like, you have to hear this podcast episode. And he still hasn't heard it. We're getting ready to go on a road trip after this. And I'm going to finally get to play it for him.
I just re-listened to it in preparation for this episode. And it is... You see, that was the golden age of podcasting. For me, like, I feel like that era is gone now, where it was really about storytelling and people were just trying new things, and Reply All was like at the top of their game. And I think we should play a clip.
I can't overstate how much this has driven me crazy.
Tell me about the problem.
And I'm singing this song that's stuck in my head. And she's asking me like, what is this? What is this weird song you're singing? And so I was like, you don't know this song? This is like a huge thing in the 90s. I can't believe you don't know this song. So I pull my phone out to try to find it so that I can put it on Bluetooth and we can listen to it on the drive home. And I can't find a single lyric to this song.
It felt almost like he'd found like a hole in the world, like a glitch. He said it wasn't like this was the best song in the world. Like that wasn't the problem. The way he described it, he said it's a song where it's like the choruses are kind of in the style of U2, but the verses are very bare naked ladies.
Reply All almost seems like they tackle the impossible, right? Like
they do.
Some guy came up to them humming a song and they had to figure out which song this was. And Shazam didn't work or whatever.
It's like this. Do 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 do. I think it's played on. I think it's like a flute, and the whole kind of conceit of the song is better than and then they sort of rattle off a bunch of things like, yeah, you're better than a day when I'm on with the G string, better than the promise of a good one night fling, better than it's like this sort of
that is bare naked ladies-y.
It's very bare naked ladies-y, right? Yeah. And then this sort of, and then the chorus is this like, share your love with me tonight. I want to feel that love, which is like kind of U2. It has this sort of grand like arena sound to it,
And the guy recreated the song like by playing each instrument with his voice.
That part was the funniest. I mean, I laughed so loud when I had found out. So, and this guy was so obsessed. I can't remember what the guy's name was.
Right.
But he went as far as to recreate that song where he was singing, he was mouthing the instruments and the solos. And that to me was the goofiest, silliest, most serious thing I've ever heard, because it's so goofy. It's so silly. And he took all that time to do that. And it just tickled me. I mean,
but it led to the next thing, right? Which was a professional musician recreating the song from memory with real instruments.
And that was Alex. Then he was like, okay, you started it. Now we're going to take it a step further. We're going to go to LA. We're going to get in the studio. We're going to get these musicians to recreate the song. And that was a great idea because that gave the song more substance and made it to where it could be recognized by some people that may know what it is. And for those that don't know, this was a song that came out in the 90s, and it was sort of Bare Naked Ladies style pop hit, and nobody could remember it. It wasn't on Spotify, and it was nowhere on the internet. So he had Googled the lyrics, and it was not coming up with anything. And these were very specific lyrics that would come up. But it seemed as if the song had been erased completely.
Yeah. And you know, if that episode were to come out today with AI, they probably would get to the answer a lot quicker.
Right.
But there's something.
Where's the fun in that?
But that's the struggle is what makes this episode so great. And as a podcast producer myself, or a journalist, like somebody that when you start out a project and it seems impossible, right? Like that you're not going to get the answers you're looking for. And you devote so many days and hours into finding it. And at the end of the process, it could be a bust.
Right.
And you have nothing, right?
I have had that question in my head. Like, what if it didn't pan out? You know, what if none of this panned out? What if they never found the song?
Yeah,
but
and they did, which is, that is so rewarding. So you guys,
magical.
If you haven't listened to Reply All, do it. Not every episode is great in my opinion, but like these classic episodes, like the Case of the Missing Hit and Long Distance and the Snapchat Thief. I mean, do yourself a favor. That's a great show. All right, let's move on to my personal favorite. Okay. Which is Heavyweight. Okay.
Yes.
Because
that's become my favorite too.
For those of you who don't know, Jonathan Goldstein is this, think of like Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know. He's just such an odd guy, but Jonathan just seems like the worst person to host this show because the concept of the show is that he has to mediate or find a resolution to a problem, right? Or connect people that have gotten disconnected. And he's the worst at it, but I think that's what makes the show amazing, right? Because he's so funny and just so misplaced, and it just makes the show great. What's your opinion on Heavyweight in general?
Oh, okay. So I have listened to Gregor, Another Roadside Attraction, Sven, and Rob so far. And they have all been incredible. And it's the emotional depth for me that is almost unexpected. Like you said, with how his personality is, especially when you had Rob Corddry on there from The Daily Show, who I always loved. That starts out funny. It starts out whimsical, but there is a surprising amount of emotional depth that goes into it. And I have found myself crying over a lot of those episodes, especially Another Roadside Attraction. I cried over that one quite a bit.
Oh, it really makes you cry. It makes you laugh. But I always tell people, like when they say, what is your favorite podcast episode of all time? I tell them it's Gregor, which is their second episode. And it's so funny because this guy, Gregor, has beef with this very famous musician, Moby. They knew each other back in the day before Moby was ever famous. And Gregor loaned him his like very rare disc set of like these field workers songs. And Moby eventually sampled the music from that box set.
Yes.
And he blew up and became famous. And he never acknowledged Gregor. And he never returned those CDs. And this guy has held a grudge for so many years.
He has. And, I understand it because Moby, he used those samples. I mean, after the episode, I went to Moby's album Play and played a couple of those songs. And I was like, wait a minute, like he used them. Like that is a major part of those songs. So I see why Gregor was a little bit upset by that.
I loaned him this box set of CDs.
Oh, Lord, trouble so hard.
He then sampled it very heavily.
Don't nobody know my trouble but God.
And created a record which got him very rich. and very famous.
Don't nobody know my
This guy you're speaking of.
This guy's Moby.
trouble was down.
Moby. Bald-headed, bespectacled, castle-dwelling, multi-million record-selling Moby.
But I love when they show up at Moby's house and how awkward the whole thing was.
Oh, it's so awkward. It's so hilariously awkward. And I want to know what you think of the story that Moby told once they were there, because Gregor was in a midlife crisis and he was really feeling like nothing he had done was significant in his life. And this giving the CDs to Moby was a symbol of him doing something that mattered. And he always thought of Moby as, oh, you took this from me and you went and you got rich off of it. And here they are in their mansion talking. And Moby actually opens up and talks about how depressed he was right at the height of his career. And on one hand, I feel like, yes, like I believe Moby when he's saying that. And I believe that, yes, all the riches in the world cannot help you if you're lonely and depressed. And on one hand, that was touching for me. On the other hand, I'm not sure that it landed with Gregor. So like, what was your take on that?
I just think that Gregor saw the people around him and his life make it. I mean, Jonathan, the host of Heavyweight, made it. Moby made it. Like some guy, I can't remember because I haven't listened to it in a long time. But some guy became like a governor or something, or like I don't know, some politician,
the president of Estonia or something,
or something like that. Yeah, and it just seemed like everyone made it except for Gregor. And Gregor's little stake in life was like, hey, I made Moby, and Moby did not acknowledge that. And it just said a lot about Moby. I was never a big Moby fan to begin with.
Neither was I.
Right. I'm not still, but you know, so I get asked this all the time. It's like, what's a good podcast that you can listen to with your kids in the car? Right. Like I always tell people, don't listen to my podcast with kids in the car. Like I always get so upset when people say, oh, let's listen to your podcast with my kid. I'm like, oh, that's not who it's meant for.
No.
But I always recommend Radiolab. And it was actually like, there are few podcasts that inspired my show, and it's Radiolab, This American Life, and Criminal. But Radiolab, their editing style, Jad Abumrad is like one of my personal heroes. And so if you haven't listened to Radiolab, this is a safe one to listen to with the kids in the car.
The Colors episode?
Or just Radiolab in general. It's just a good show.
There are some crime-related ones. Like I listened to the Buried Bodies case, and you wouldn't want to listen to that with your kids, but there are plenty. And also Playing God was a big one that I listened to, and I cried at that. So don't listen to that one, but just obviously.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not all of them.
Actually,
you know what? I think they have a Radiolab for kids where they curated all the kid-friendly shows.
Oh, I love that, because there's
feed.
plenty of them. There's plenty of them that kids can listen to. And the way that they use audio, I think that's why they call it Radiolab, is the way that they use audio in their music, specifically the episode on colors where they used like a choir to represent how each animal sees color. So, you know, you have your human, and then you have all the different pitches of voices that come in and do like a little. And then you have the mantis shrimp where they can see way more. And then it's like a bigger choir with all these different voices. And it's interesting because you're representing light with voices, and it's
you could see it. You could see it even though it's an audio program. And that's what I love about Radiolab, just because when you listen to it, it is so well sound designed. And like you said, the choir, like I think we should play that because they do such a great job of comparing like the way a dog sees color, which they only see, I think, blue and green, which is wild. And the humans, blue, green, and red.
But just to set a baseline, your normal rainbow goes like this, starting bottom up.
3, 2, 1,
red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, Roy G. Biv.
Roy G. Biv.
The way they use sound to paint that picture is so cool.
He told us that humans see 7 colors in the rainbow.
In the case of the dog,
very different rainbow.
It's going to start off blue. He'll be able to see blue just fine.
So it would see a rainbow starting with blue.
Same blue we see.
And then grading off into green.
Same green as us.
And then disappearing. The rainbow would end there.
And the mantis shrimp.
They would start the rainbow way, way, way inside where we see violet. They would see extraordinarily deep ultraviolet. And then they would go on through several kinds of ultraviolet, probably 5 or 6 kinds of ultraviolet. And then they would get to violet, which is now they're reaching our colors, and go through violet and violet blue and blue green.
Where they have those green, blue blues as well?
Yep. And then they would go out into the reds. So they would be about as red as us when they got to the red end.
But only in the reds?
Yeah.
What a rainbow that must be.
Anyway, if you're curious about the World Radiolab, I'm so glad that was on your list, because that's definitely, I mean, the Colors episode is one of my favorites.
You can't go wrong, and you could listen to hours and hours of Radiolab.
So the next one really messed with me because you list Mystery Show.
Yes.
And you list it a lot because it's a great show. It's a very limited show, right?
It is.
With Starlee
6
Klein.
episodes.
Yeah,
I believe.
but she is amazing. I almost see her as like the female Jonathan Goldstein. You know, she's just kind of quirky and
so kind, and the way that she connects with her people that she speaks to throughout her solving of mysteries, it's really her personality that makes the show.
Yeah,
She's
it really
very,
is. But then she also
likable
tackles very unsolvable things, right? Like things that are just like, wow, you know, this belt buckle that somebody had a belt buckle and wanted to return it to its owner, and it just seems like, where the hell do you start? Like, how do you return a random belt buckle to its owner? And she did.
One day I went over to Jimmy's house and he showed me this belt buckle that he'd found in the gutter. That was what he said. He went for a walk and he found it in the gutter. And it's beautiful. On the front of it, there's a chef's hat, front and center, flanked by a corkscrew, a pan of eggs that are frying, and a toaster. And the pan of eggs, the eggs are painted, you know, like very carefully with some kind of enamel. So they're like yellow and white. And this is the coolest part of it. You ready?
Yeah.
That is the toaster.
No.
Yeah, there's a tiny, tiny switch. And if you flick the switch, the toast pops up.
There's a little tiny toast that comes out?
Yeah, little tiny toast, like as big as your pinky nail. They have like a crust and then bread texture on the bread. And then you can push them right back down. It is the coolest belt buckle I've ever seen.
Think back to when you were a little kid. How badly you wanted to believe the world was full of hidden treasures. Now, imagine seeing that belt buckle.
And there was a kid that had a belt buckle that his friend found in the street. Very intricate, very unique, and it had someone's name on it, so that helps. But yeah, she had to fly here and there and everywhere to try and just find this random person. And it turned out that this person was a very special person too. Like, you could tell they were a special person, and you would know that by looking at how intricate this belt buckle was.
He was a cowboy, you know?
Yes, he was a cowboy, and well, I don't want to give it away too much, but
but I just love it. At the end of the episode, though, she made this cowboy cry, and almost made me cry.
Very touching. It was very, very touching. The fact that she took all that time and made that moment happen. It's those little moments that they make happen. Like when Alex helped that guy find the song, and when Starlee helped this belt buckle get back to its owner. Such care was taken to make that belt buckle, and such love was put into it. And clearly that person had a lot of love for that person who owned that belt buckle. And so to have that back meant so much to him. And it was a special moment to be recorded on audio, and made into this beautiful story.
Well, I was like, why did she choose the belt buckle out of all the mystery show episodes? Because I was like, I remember the breakup episode being my favorite. And then I started looking for it and I was like, wait, I don't see the breakup one. And that's because Starlee Klein did a breakup episode for This American Life, which is one
exactly. I
of
listened to that too.
Have you listened to that one?
Yes, I have.
Oh my God. That episode is a classic where she actually got Phil Collins was it Phil Collins?
It was Phil Collins.
Yeah. And to kind of talk her, back from bringing her back from the edge, right? Like she was so sad about this breakup and he was telling her, giving her advice, and it's just radio classic. Like it was just perfect. So if that's not on your list, but is it?
So it can't be, because This American Life is behind a paywall on Spotify, I believe. I'm not even sure that you could access it, but all the episodes look locked to me. So I've been listening at thisamericanlife.org for free is where I've been listening.
Really? They locked their episodes?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well,
all right. Well, they got, here's
money,
the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like everything
they don't have money to make this stuff.
Yeah. Nobody's going to pay for a podcaster to go find the owner of a belt buckle. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what people are starting to realize. And like, I always say this, like I have a Patreon community. In fact, that's what's happening now. I have like a live drop right now. And, like my listeners listen to it live and I try to give them like little perks or whatever. But they're the ones that are making this thing happen, because advertising is, drying up. Big companies don't want to acquire podcasts anymore. So if you want these types of shows, you have to support the people who are actually making these shows. Yeah.
And I think that is such a good form of, I don't know, podcast socialism. I probably shouldn't say that, but just a way to self-fund your entertainment. And okay, you're paying for Paramount Plus and you're paying for Netflix. Do you want to hear these real raw human stories that are so well thought out, and it's so high quality?
The next show that you recommended that we picked to talk about today, I had never listened to. I've listened to this podcast You're Wrong About. I've only listened to one where it was about the Kitty Genovese story, because fun fact, I do a lot of research. I go down so many rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And I reference an old article about Kitty Genovese from the New York Times from back in the day when it happened. And that article was completely wrong. And I did not do a thorough enough job to realize that the Kitty Genovese case was not actually what we now know it to be, right? There was a lot of context missing, and listeners pointed me to You're Wrong About, and that was the first time I'd listened to it. But you talked about the Flight 571
Yep, that's
episode?
the only episode that I've listened to. I actually started to listen to the one that you're referencing. I think is called Bystander Apathy, and I had started that but didn't finish it quite yet. But the first and only one I've listened to so far is that. I think her name's Blair Braverman was on there, and it was about the Uruguay Flight 571, and it was a rugby team.
Yeah,
and
we all know the Cliff Notes version of this story.
I
right?
had never even heard of it. I had never even heard of it, and it was insane.
Well, the Cliff Notes version, for those listening, it's this rugby team, the airplane crashes in the Andes, and in order to survive, they had to eat each other.
They had
that's
to eat
all
the dead bodies.
Yeah, that's all I knew about the story.
Right.
But oh my God, there was so much more to this, and it's
very much.
And even though it sounds depressing as hell, it is such a great example of what we're capable of in terms of survival, right?
Human resilience, what we can go through.
And it's not all depressing. What I found interesting about that episode was the humor that they found while in this awful situation.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that one you introduced me to because I had never heard that story. And I was just like, unbelievable.
I would have never thought I would be putting you onto a podcast.
Well, funny enough, Ivy, because we talked offline and you said, oh, all this podcast listening, I've even thought about starting my own podcast. And I told you, I said, Ivy, once you start a podcast, you stop listening to podcasts.
Right.
Well, first of all, sometimes I feel like my brain is full, you know? Like,
I can only imagine.
Right. Yeah, I'm just like working so many stories all the time, and it's so negative. And like, you notice that you do have some true crime on your list, but I only picked the
Maybe
non-true
you avoided
crime.
that.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm tired of true crime.
I am. I mean, I'm not tired of true crime, but it's just so heavy. And when I want to give up an hour of my day or 30 minutes of my day, like walking the dog or doing chores or whatever, I want to listen to something interesting. I want to learn something, you know. And I know it sounds kind of ironic because all my podcasts are super negative and depressing, but yeah, for me, these episodes that we're talking about are like an escape from all that.
I can see that. I can definitely see where you'd want to be listening to the Case of the Missing Hit and, you know, these other more delightful, like uplifting, more lighthearted content.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Palmolive. Family time isn't just the big moments. It's weeknight dinners, sitting around the table, everyone talking all at once. So when the plates are empty and the sink is full, use Palmolive Ultra. Palmolive's most powerful formula removes up to 99.9% of grease, leaving your dishes sparkling clean. And the new convenient pump makes cleaning even easier, so you can spend less time tackling dishes and more time together. Shop now at palmolive.com.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Well, you said, hey, you know, there are some other episodes because we picked these handful, and I want to include one more from the list that I just thought was amazing, and I hadn't actually heard it in a long time. And the first time I heard this episode was live, which is weird, right? To listen to an episode. No, I'm talking about live in person. Okay, not like live like the day it came out. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is right next to Durham. Criminal is based out of Durham, right?
Okay.
Phoebe Judge. And Phoebe did a show at this small little bar called Motorco. And she did a live show of Criminal. But she had an opening act, and it was Love and Radio. And I mean, it's hard to say you perform a podcast. No, it was like a listening party, right? Like, so he was just...
love that.
He was playing The Living Room. And that was the first time I ever heard that episode. And I think that's actually the only Love and Radio episode that I've ever listened to.
It's in my top. That's probably right underneath Case of the Missing Hit for me right now as it stands of all the shows that are all of the podcasts I've listening to, the episodes. And it's under 30 minutes long, but there's so much depth to it. And like so many people have commented on that video that I made about this particular episode. I listened to it and I immediately, within the hour, I sat down, and I don't usually do that. I usually take notes on the videos and then I record later. But I was so impacted by that episode, The Living Room, that I sat down and I recorded immediately after I listened to it. Because I was like, I've never heard anything like this before. It's such a unique story. And it was so intriguing, but also emotionally moving.
I hadn't listened to it in years, and I listened to it last night. Even though I had listened to it, I felt like I was listening to it for the first time. I was just as like gripping as it was like 9-10 years ago when it first came out. And so like, let's give listeners like an idea of what this episode is about and why it's so special.
Okay. So what it is it's a story about a woman who is a new mom, and she is living in an apartment and in a big city. So you can tell she's living in a big city area. She's in a high rise, and she's caring for her new baby. She's at home a lot, right? Just brand new baby. So she happens to look out her living room window, and she notices that at night she can really see into a window that is right across from her apartment, another high rise. There's like a garden and then this other high rise and a big window. And it's another apartment, and it's the bedroom to the apartment. So it's very, very well lit. And she could see them almost as if she's watching a TV screen.
Yeah.
So at first she can't help but see them and watch them a little bit because of what they were doing in the bedroom. And so she was catching a glimpse, and she was even worrying like that her husband would start watching because she just had a baby and she's feeling self-conscious and things like that. And it's this young, vibrant couple. Well, then the watching becomes more intentional and a little more intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she decides to get a little pair of binoculars, her bird watching binoculars, and really start watching these people. And she's watching them for hours at a time. And a very dramatic story begins to unfold. I don't know if we want to spoil it for people or not, but it's something happens with the couple that she's not expecting to happen, because she sees them one way, and then as things begin to change for them and they enter a new season of their life that is very difficult, she starts to notice what's happening to them, and it's a sad thing, but she continues to watch, and she can see so clearly into the apartment that she can see, you know, their family members coming in and things like that, and she becomes obsessed.
Yeah,
it's a rear window situation that
yeah, it's very voyeuristic, but then at the same time, it's not like it takes place over a week. It takes place over years, and you see this couple like at their best and at their worst, and it's another like tearjerker. You kind of get emotionally attached to this couple that we never hear from ever on the episode.
She never even learns their names.
Yeah.
But it was interesting when I posted about it, a lot of people wanted to talk, and I wanted to talk about, you know, the watching, because, you know, a lot of people were in different camps. A lot of people were like, this is so invasive, she should have never been watching them. And then other people, including myself, I basically said, yeah, I probably would have done it. To be honest, I'm very curious. I'm just a curious person, and I probably just wouldn't have told anyone. I would never have gone on a podcast to tell someone about it. I might have written anonymously about the story, but I probably would have done it. I would have watched as well, because I'm just so curious. And you want to know, what are people doing when they're not being watched? That's what's the fascinating thing is. They don't know she's watching, and I know that is intriguing. But I also asked, like, could she have gotten away with this story if she was a man? That's another question to ask as well.
No,
like if a man came out with a podcast that was like, I watched this couple for years through the window.
All of a sudden it becomes really creepy. I'd never thought about that.
All of a sudden it's perverted now. But the woman was so sincere, and I really believe like there was no malintent at all with watching. She was just extremely curious, and then became invested in these people. And it's bizarre, but it's moving at the same time.
It's no different than sitting at the airport and like people watching and trying to like figure out their story, right? Like we're so curious about other people.
But the whole difference is that they know they
good.
were being watched, and they were not in public. They were in their home.
Right.
But you know, one could say though that you know, their home was so well lit, and they never had any curtains, you know, and the way that they behaved, it almost seemed like they just didn't care that anyone was watching. And the woman even said that she thought about holding up a sign and being like, I can see you, you know. But yeah, I mean, there is,
I guess it is a little different. Yeah.
There's an ethical line there.
Well,
I really do.
But you want to know, in journalism school, they taught us that your right to privacy. Okay, like what are your expectations of privacy? So like if I'm standing in the street looking into your house, and I could video record that, and whatever I could see is fine. But if I zoom in, now I'm invading your right to privacy.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is a variant. So that's a law that you just can't zoom.
In court, you are not invading somebody's privacy if you're just standing outside looking in, just like anybody else could do, right? But if you now start zooming in, you're totally invading their privacy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the moral of the story is just get curtains if you don't want to be seen. Because I have walked outside my house. I have a big window, and I've gone on walks at night, and and that's the whole mood of the podcast is we've all done that. We've all gone out on a night walk and seen someone's house that's well lit, and you can see what show they're watching, and there's something about just looking in there and being like, oh, that's a person that just is doing their thing that they don't know that I'm watching them.
Yeah, so. It's it's like a little scene, and you want to know the story. Well, those are all the story. I mean, those are all the episodes that we were going to talk about today. If you want, the account is called Watch and Listen on TikTok. I'll link to it in the show notes. And also, if you're on Spotify, Ivy created this excellent playlist, goated podcast episodes. And I just love it. I love the way you're approaching this because I've been listening to podcasts for a long time. Maybe, I don't know, like 10, 15 years or something, but you just are like new to this and you're curating this list of the best of the best and you're on the right track. And I love what you're doing. And thank you for featuring my show, which you totally didn't need to. But
no, I wanted to. I want to make that very, very clear that I wanted to feature that because I've always thought about LaDonna Humphrey, and I also just binged The Stalker in one day.
Oh my God! In one day?
Yes. And we talk about like heaviness and how it, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this family, like, oh.
Wow, that's been a really traumatic day. Yeah.
It kind of was. I was just like, I think that's enough of that for now. Yeah. but it was so good, and I'm on the final episode now. But I wish I could just sit here and talk to you.
Did you find the playlist on Spotify? Because I made a playlist because even after the Stalker series ended, I had update episodes, and so I collected them all on Spotify.
I've just been kind of searching on Spotify, but I'm on those last ones. Like The Arraignment is like the one that I'm on now, and so I'm just really and I've been Googling now.
What really interesting story before we go, because a lot of the great series that I've worked on, because people are like, why don't you do another LaDonna or another Stalker? I'm like, these things don't like fall out of the sky. But sometimes they do fall out of the sky, but they're not like everywhere. You gotta really search for these things. And a lot of times when I start working on series like those two, at first they don't make a lot of sense, right? Like you have to imagine the way I'm approaching the story. I don't know how it ends. Like I don't know if this is going to be even good or not. Right. And you just, it's kind of like a lot of the podcasts that we were talking about, like, like the belt buckle, this is like my belt buckle. And so a lot of times these stories start out very ambiguous. And so like last night, I'm working on this new story. This is a story that I've been like following for a year, but I don't know too much about. And just recently it reignited, and this contact sent me 50 emails. Okay. All like flooded my entire inbox. And I'm just poking around, and it involves cadaver dogs, some lady who's might be a con artist, and she cut off her finger and has a cadaver thumb, and like just weird stuff. Like I'm telling my wife this story, and she's like, what's the story? I'm like, I don't know yet, but it has all the hallmarks of
so
something.
This is a new one you're talking about.
Yeah, this is something new. And so like, I just think it's so interesting to capture this moment, because who knows what this is going to become, right?
It could turn into something.
This could be a really good story or not, but this is how it feels.
That's how it begins.
Yeah.
When I listened to that whole thing with LaDonna Humphrey, I had to think like, how on earth did this story unfold? And like
it was not interesting at first. It was not. I almost passed on it. It sounded like a really boring story when I first heard it. Yeah. But yeah, you just got to keep at it,
Definitely turned out to not be.
Yeah. It's a story that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Yeah. I do worry. I hope you take care of your safety, because between her and that family, these are people that.
I know. I should consider doing a history podcast where like Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Ivy, so much for coming on the show and for sharing, all these great episodes with the world, right?
Thank you, Javier.
Yeah.
And thank you for everything you do and for continuing to make awesome content. Because yes, maybe there are some, podcasts have taken a downturn, but you're still making the content. And we just got to keep looking for it. We got to keep supporting it and keep listening.
I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Putting off replacing your window treatments because you think it's complicated? At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years proving it doesn't have to be. And today is your last chance to save big on Spring Black Friday deals. Whether you want to DIY it or have a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we've got you. Free samples, real design experts, and zero pressure. Just help when you need it. Shop up to 45% off with minimum purchase, plus get a free professional measure during the Blinds.com Spring Black Friday Last Chance sale. Rules and restrictions apply.